And so to road races, a time which for many drivers they find themselves a little bit different when it comes to this championship. This is the first foray that the Crest Autosport IndyCar Series has found itself moving forward into some incredible battleground action. And what a battleground we find ourselves with today. We are upstate in New York at this point in time. It's Watkins Glen, and it is the 6th round of the championship, the halfway stage, and absolutely sensational, I can guarantee. Welcome to the party, welcome to the conversation for season 3, and for the first time, road racing bringing itself then to the forefront. I'm Sparey, William Foyle on cameras for us today with this Crest Autosport iRacing IndyCar Series sponsored by Apex Tracks, the motorsport and motor racing circuit wall art racetrack sculpture designers who manufacture using Formula One and motorsport inspired rapid prototyping technologies. That partners, of course, with Track Racer, 603 Autosport, Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, and the GP Box as well. And we are bringing this to you maybe a little bit differently from what we would traditionally be able to do to you. We do apologize for that we are unable to bring it to you live, but this is as close, as good as we can possibly do via Facebook, YouTube, and as long as Twitch. So welcome along. A like, a follow, a subscribe, they go a long way, whichever platform you do be watching. This is Watkins Glen. This is a circuit which has had a long and storied history. It's the resting place of a legendary Formula One driver who could have been world champion once upon a time, Francois Sever, the Frenchman, teammate with Sir Jackie Stewart, who he himself, of course, has a very storied and linear history when it comes to this circuit. And this is a track which, by all means, is the classic boot. It's the track which everybody knows and understands. It's a 5.43 kilometer, 11-turn Titan, and a track which was moved away to be here racing today instead of Long Beach, a circuit which, by all intents and purposes, was very tight. There was a lot of concerns about pile-ups through certain corners around the Long Beach circuit. So the move to Watkins Glen makes it a little bit more open, still has that same sort of narrow feel, but maybe a little bit more expansive for a lot of drivers to go out and to give each other what they need out then over the course of racing action today. What is going to be worth noting is that we do have a 1 week's break in the championship from this point, Watkins Glen. It's a 40-lap foray today, and ultimately it is going to be Iowa, which we will come back to 2 weeks from today, and then from that point onwards, you're going to get Kentucky, Laguna Seca, Gateway, Chicagoland, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to end out the season. The winner of this series, of course, wins themselves a fabulous prize provided by Apex Tracks, which is a sculpture of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to pin up on their driver's wall. And on top of that, plaque prizes will be provided to the top 3 drivers of the championship, as well as the winner of the Indianapolis 100 round at the end of the season. It's a 100-lap event, and that is provided by Uncle Luke's Sign and Sticker Shop. And if you're brand new to this, seeing this for the very first time here with Crest Autosport, you still have opportunities to enter the series, and that even includes mid-season, which we are slap bang in the middle of right now. You can head over to crestautosport.com, and all drivers have 2 drop rounds available to them, so attendance to all races is not required in order to be competitive. Over the course of today, we're going to have qualifying, which will be coming up on the top of the hour, which is in about 5.5 minutes time, and then that follows along with what is open qualifying for the first time this season. A little bit different in terms of how road qualifying works. It's 20 laps open, trying to put the best possible times on the board, and then with that warm-up, we'll bring ourselves to racing action, which will be 40 laps worth of battling, and anything can and normally will be possible when it comes to all of the racing. The points, though, are what are really interesting at this point in time. It is Timothy Stroh who does have control in the T&D Racing Team car, 135 points at this moment in time. He's got a 9-point margin over Thijs Barendrecht, who did really well, bouncing back at the 5th round of the championship, picking up the victory overall. But they do know that they're not completely out of the woods just yet. Leonardo Paletta, currently in 3rd ALP Motorsports, the Venezuelan, would have used last week as a drop round and would definitely want to come back at this road course and really make something happen. You've got Alex Everett in 4th position, Ben Bennyworth currently in 5th. They're having a really close scrap, and you look down through the pages, you've got a whole heap of good battling. Stephen de Grevelier and Ollie Peters split by just a point at this moment in time, and there are a lot of chances to go and put your name up in lights. On top of that, you also have to talk about the fact there is the Road Course Cup that's in play. Of course, it's only a 2-round cup, which is going to be a really, really strong battle to see that in mind. Of course, you've got this Watkins Glen circuit, which becomes the first part of it. And then, of course, later on in the season, when we head to the Laguna Seca circuit, the WeatherTech Raceway, then the 9th round of the championship could be really, really strong between now and the end of this season. And this is one of the things that you see with IndyCar. It's not just an oval championship, it's oval and road in the real world, which means that you get different skill sets, different forms, different drivers come up towards the front, and that is definitely going to be worth keeping in mind, especially with those bonus points, fastest lap, pole position, most laps led. They are going to be very, very crucial. Weather conditions out there at the moment, well, it's a 29-degree track at the moment, mostly cloudy. You'd say it's ideal conditions, but it is very blustery in from the north at 24 kilometers an hour. So a cold wind doth blow over this Watkins Glen circuit. Very hilly circuit, actually, surprisingly so for a number of people who drive this place and think that it's maybe not as extensive as what it potentially could be. But there are a lot of opportunities out there to go and make some great racing happen today. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty sure you'll all be looking forward to it as well. This Watkins Glen track, though, it is going to bring up a few surprises. We take a look at practice then for the first time. Lars Petter Anderson, currently the fastest of them all in the number 42 machine. He's got himself a 1:24.077, and that has him up at the top of the times at the moment. You got Thijs Barendrecht, his teammate there just behind for the Basic Racing team, in 2nd, and you got that 44 of Timothy Stroh. He's 4th fastest at the moment. He's only a 10th off of Thijs Barendrecht, so he's definitely competitive here today, and I'm sure that it's going to be a very, very strong race that we're going to be having overall. Couple of drivers then are going to be brand new to this season and brand new at this race. The 72 machine right now making progress towards the heel of the boot. Turn number 8 out on track is Matt Emmons at this point in time, and the 72 is certainly hoping to have a good showing here today on initial challenges, and it might be a very nice run from him if all things go well. And just jumping into the session right now is the number 13 machine. Lucky for some, Jamie Dorey, not quite in just yet, but he's certainly another driver to keep an eye out on. Also, a tribute number coming in today for Ollie Peters in the number 6 Crest Autosport car in, I would say, celebration of making position number 6 in the iRacing Not Top 10 for February 2022. So that is going to be a really important battle that we're going to be seeing from Ollie Peters. He knows that he doesn't want to be on that Not Top 10, and he is going to try and prove that he is a road course maestro out there on circuit as he runs through the final corner on this updated Watkins Glen layout. For the longest time, it was very much built in a scan of around 2014, and now more up to date. The curbs are pretty much more aggressive. You can attack them a bit more. The lines are painted in a lot more as well, so you've got real opportunities out there to go and be aggressive now with this circuit. They don't have to deal with the bus stop, which means you've got a clean overtaking opportunity here today up in towards the carousel. And something we haven't really talked about is the fact that drivers will be having themselves the push to pass system as they go around qualifying and, of course, in the race. They have 10 uses of it in the race, so choosing when to use it to attack and when to use it to defend is going to be crucial. As well will be tyres as checkered flag comes out in practice. We're going to be jumping ourselves over in about 5 seconds over towards the qualifying efforts that we have moving forward, but the tyres are going to be crucial. Those Firestones, there's 2 different compounds. Effectively, what you have is a prime and an option. The prime tyre is the tyre that you see normally when you go out there to watch oval racing. It is pretty much as solid as the tyre is, but if you like a nice red sticker on your tyres, then that is the quick tyre. That is the option tyre. It wears away a little bit faster, and it is going to induce pitting here today. Drivers have to run both tyres during the race for at least 10 laps each. And so that is about 25%, or is exactly 25% of a race distance. Qualifying is completely open, so all drivers are going to be out there at the same time. And the crucial thing about open qualifying here today is that when that clock expires at the end of 20 minutes worth of racing action, session doesn't stop. You are allowed to finish the lap that you are on. Keep an eye to the sky as well. Dynamic weather conditions are really going to play a factor. In fact, the track has heated up by 5 degrees since practice over in towards this qualifying session. So this track is a lot hotter than it was initially. It was 29, it's now 34 degrees. And so there's going to be a little bit more understeer in these vehicles as these drivers now look to try and sort out where they need to be out on track. Ollie Peters will be the first driver overall who will be looking to set a representative flying lap. He's got Jeremy Pronk and Matt Emmons behind, searching for opportunities out there to go and be aggressive. But let's take a lap with Ollie Peters, the challenge of this Watkins Glen classic boot circuit, over the start-finish line and descend down the hill to the 90, turn number 1. When this track was initially created, that was the final corner out on circuit, and the start-finish line was here on this short run up through 2, 3, and 4. The S's here as you crest the hill at 270 kilometers an hour, and then you put the power down as much as you possibly can because you've got that all-important run here at the highest point of the circuit to the carousel. This right-hander which falls down the hill and is so reliant on those left-hand side tyres holding on that you know that this is a true challenge. Now you enter the boot. Through the chute you come along, or the instep, some would say, through this big left-hander and then down to the toe of the boot, the big right here, and it's a really tough corner, and you can see it there from Ollie Peters because he completely locked up the corner there and had to really panic. He was fortunate he didn't abandon that lap. Any off-track will invalidate the lap here in iRacing, so you've got to be cautious. Heel of the boot, quite nice, very, very firm, and this is a really tough corner here, turn number 9, and incredibly so. It's off camber as you attack up the hill and over the bridge, that walkway going through to turn number 10. They've extended out that section of road so it's not completely gravel, and then that final corner, turn 11, with the pit entry there down on the inside, which could be so deadly in the race. It's a 125.993 for Ollie Peters. He sets the benchmark out there only for a moment because Jeremy Pronk has found himself a 10th of a second more, and he goes to the top of the timing stands with that initial battle going through and finding the laps. Ben Bennyworth goes quicker, but only for a moment because almost a second clear of everybody else's Welsh Dynamite in the number 2. Alex Everett puts himself on top, but he himself can only wait for a moment because Lars Petter Anderson, who had proven over the course of today that he was the fastest driver overall in terms of practice, has just gone half a second clear of Alex Everett then with his time, a 24.276, and that is good enough at this point in time to put himself on the pole position for racing. And as is traditional with IndyCar style racing, it will be a rolling start here today at Watkins Glen. 17 drivers today will be hoping to put their best possible foot forward as the first times are starting to continue to creep in. So we got a lot still out there to try and get through. Got 15 minutes still remaining on the clock, and drivers still trying to figure out what is the best strategy out there. A number of drivers have gone out on the harder compound tyre. Thijs Barendrecht is one of them, 1:27.5, his fastest time at the moment. So there is going to be an element of strategy. Who wants to start on the slower tyre? Who wants to start on the faster tyre? And it is going to be a marrying up of those two things, which is going to be crucial. Peters has improved his time to a 25.3. Nigel Stock has jumped over Matt Emmons with a 26 flat as Barendrecht makes his run over to the start-finish line, gets a little helpful tow as he puts a 25.3 down, goes third fastest with a bit of help from Fran Herrera just in front, who goes 8th fastest, then with his time a 28.1 from the Spaniard out there on circuit. So he found himself a pretty good time. Jamie Jenkins jumps up to 5th fastest with a 25.6 as he crosses the line in his blue machine. So Jenkins then moves himself up into the picture. And this is going to be an incredible picture in terms of battling. What we did neglect, though, is the team's championship overall. And it's a crucial team's championship at that. The T&D Racing team, 218 points. They are clear by only 48. That gap really ratcheted back over the course of the last couple of weeks. Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks do hold a sizable opportunity to go and chase, with ALP Motorsport currently in 3rd and 603 Autosport in 4th. The two new drivers both drive for Next Gen Racing, and so they'll be jumping into the team's championship as the 5th entry overall, and very much it's going to be about keeping your eyes peeled on how their results all come into play. Timothy Stroh, by the way, has jumped 2nd fastest on a 1:24.528, is about a quarter of a second back from Lars Petter Anderson in the 42 at this moment in time. So some good times in on the books, as I've just seen the back end of Patrick Linderboom finding the barriers, then just clipping the grass on the outside of the toe of the boot. Not ideal for him, but the good news with an open qualifying session like this, compared to what you see on the ovals where you get 2 laps and that's it, is that if you make a mistake today, it is not the end of the world in qualifying. You can have as many accidents as you want, but you have the opportunity to go out and to put your best foot forward with what is some incredible displays of driving. So just keep that in the back of the mind, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be in for a real treat in terms of how these times are going to be put together on the board. Couple drivers still haven't yet set a representative lap time, and both of the ALP machines, the ALP Motorsports cars, Leonardo Paletta and Alfredo Morales, yet to put a time on the board as we near the halfway stage. And this track right now at 31 degrees, it was up at 34 earlier on, it has dipped down a few, so opportunities then if you're out there just trying to battle with the clouds. And speaking of battling with the clouds, Leonardo Paletta has just jumped 4th fastest with a 24.957, a really good time by the Venezuelan. And he knows that if he wants to get this sorted, he has to be absolutely on top of his game if he wants to get back in the title picture. An amazing train as well behind Thijs Barendrecht as they run through in towards the toe of the boot, sorry. He's got Jenkins behind him. Patrick Linderboom for 603 Autosport is there. And there is the issues then. Both drivers, Barendrecht and Linderboom, finding themselves in the wall. Just pushing a bit too hard. Barendrecht lost the back through the corner, and that's what's thrown him into the wall, and Linderboom just locking up himself. And this is what you're going to see. Drivers trying to push, find the limits of grip, and when they don't have it and the back starts stepping out, there's not much room around this place today to gather it back up again. So it's always going to be that much of an issue out there in terms of battles. Jamie Jenkins in the 48 will make a drive for the line with 10 minutes and 58 seconds remaining on the clock. That lap won't count, and he will pretty much pull that over to one side and say, I'm not going to improve on my lap times here. Track position in the final couple of minutes is going to be crucial. Whoever's last over the line, you'd feel today, has a bit of an advantage, and it really will start to show. Paletta goes up into third. Alex Everett had improved up to third fastest. He was in third. Paletta was fourth, but he's even found an extra tenth of a second. Now a 24.765 moves third fastest overall. And really, what can you say? Great times being put in on the board at this stage. And we're seeing here how certain drivers are looking good and certain drivers maybe aren't. Everett improves his time, 24.701. So he goes third fastest for a moment. And the one driver I'm surprised at this point, who hasn't put the best time yet on the board, had been a little bit blindsided by the rules and regulations, hadn't read up on the document fully. Dave Steadman in the 74, T&D, feel they're a little bit on the back foot here this week at Watkins Glen. And he's down in the pits at the moment in 15th position, the last driver to set a representative lap time out there at the moment. So that is going to be worth keeping in mind, as this is going to be a very, very important qualifying session to keep in the back of the mind. Alfredo Morales has just gone 8th fastest then with a 25.480. It's about 1.2 seconds off of Lars Petter Anderson, but it's still a really good time for Alfredo Morales, who is out there on the red sticker tyre. There, that option effectively, trying to get himself through. As things stand, 6 drivers have been going out there on the hard compound tyre, and they include Nigel Stock, Lars Petter Anderson, surprisingly out there, trying to give his teammate a tow, as there's an incident just in front of him there with one of the ALP cars, so troubles in the offing for that one. Jamie Jenkins out there at this moment. For a moment, Matt Emmons was out there on the hard tyre. I think he's switching to the red sticker. Then you have Dave Steadman and Fran Herrera at this point in time, who have been out there on the prime tyre to try and make something happen in this qualifying session. It's going to be a mightily strong battle towards the end. 8.5 minutes remaining on the clock, and you'd have to say there are a few surprises, but most of the big hitters in the race are up there near the front. Jeremy Pronk at the moment in 5th position, looking pretty solid. Ben Bennyworth making a run to the line, and it is pretty tight between 5th to 11th positions. It's about half a second splitting those drivers. It feels like you've got a few racing bands. The top 4, half a second clear, and, well, that will change because Thijs Barendrecht here has jumped 2nd fastest on the soft compound tyre, that red sticker, and a 24.428 means that the Basic Racing team, they are 1 and 2 here in qualifying with that run. A bit of help for Thijs, the reigning champion, of course, with the number 1 on his car. And I have to say, he has done a very good job of putting the pressure on some of his rivals out there racing today. So just keep that in mind. Jamie Jenkins goes 8th fastest on the 25.407. And it is going to be a strong battle. It is going to be a case of, can you stick and do what you need to? Jamie Dory, by the way, for Next Gen Car, was in 13th in the number 13. He's now up to 12th, just going past Matt Emmons by about 0.2 of a second, as he himself runs over towards the line and doesn't set a representative lap time. But this is one of the things as well with open qualifying, is that you can get a tow from your teammate or a quick car in front of you. If you can latch onto the back of a very quick driver, put a lap together on the books, you can find nearly 3, 4, half a second maybe in terms of tenths just by staying behind and following the lines of the driver in front. The one caveat to that is don't use the same braking markers, because that could certainly be a little bit of a problem. Ben Bennyworth jumps up then to 9th position, a 25.459, as he pulled the car off to one side. Morales then is knocked back into 10th position, and Nigel Stock into 11th out there on circuit. The one driver who hasn't set a time, as a checkered flag against his name, is Inigo Mardones, and that is certainly not going to be ideal. And I have been noticing a couple drivers struggling actually to get it out of the pits effectively. Dave Steadman taking a reset after collecting a penalty for speeding in the lane coming out. So that's just a quick reset with the rule set in place, and they are able to go out and make something happen. Top 5 then: Anderson, Barendrecht, Stroh, Everett and Paletta at this point in time. not a guarantee that this is going to be how the season ends up, or how even the race of 40 laps is going to be ending up today. But at least as a precursor to it, you have to say, all important at this point in time. Everett does improve to a 24.567, but he's still stuck behind Timothy Stroh by about 400. So there is still that battle. The track has been fluctuating. It's just gone back up again to 33 degrees. So another couple of degrees up. And with iRacing's dynamic track system here, there is definitely a case to be made that you have to time your runs to perfection. How hot is the track? How much grip are you going to have in the tyres? And actually, how much are you pushing on that outlap? Because if you're going 100% on the outlap, you're not going to find it. 2 takes from Thijs Barendrecht as he runs through turn number 9 out on track. And you're going to be seeing drivers try and battle with a car that maybe they don't have the traditional tools for. They don't have access to the weight jacker. Of course, why would you? Would help you turn left in certain corners, but turning right would certainly be a little bit more of a different challenge, as that is a 4.26 by Thijs Barendrecht. That is a great lap by him. He improves by all of, get this, 0.02 of a second. He's exactly a 10th and a half behind Lars Petter Andersen at this moment in time. So get a look out for drivers who are out there. Andersen out there on circuit. The basic racing team cars are working together. The Crest Autosport cars are working together as well. Everett and Peters. Peters currently in 7th position at this point in time. You've got to keep an eye out every which way you look. Maybe the T&D cars might start working together, but Stroh at the moment has been very isolated, and Dave Steadman hasn't really done much in terms of getting out there, getting a lap that he's comfortable with. And then, of course, you've got that little question about the ALP cars, the enigmas that they have been over the course of the season. They've always been knocking on the door. And is this a chance for Leonardo Paletta to put a magical lap in that puts him in the good graces of the top 5 fully and secures himself there? You've got Jeremy Pronk currently in 6th position as well in the number 52 for the Dutch racing team. And that Dutch sim racing team car has had victories before in this championship. And it might just be that Jeremy Pronk is hoping for a little bit of help today to make that a reality. So just keep it in mind, it's not going to be a complete guarantee that the racing that you have is going to be plain sailing. 40 laps is a long time around a circuit like Watkins Glen, and this qualifying will prove it. Jamie Dory jumps up to 9th fastest with a 25.458, a full 1,000th clear of Ben Bennyworth's 96 machine. So that will give work for Bennyworth, who immediately jumps out of the pits then to give himself a real go at it. Patrick Lindeboom then is going to make a drive for the line as well. He's on a 27.289 at the moment, down there in 15th place, just getting to grips with this circuit. No Logan Egan either for the first time this season. That's a real shame to see that the American isn't here, but it will be nice to see him back after the week's break and back to racing action for the second half of the season. Everett puts a 24.490 down on the board, and he's towed Ollie Peters up to 5th fastest. The 124 Devil 666 moves up to 5th place. So Ollie Peters in the 6. He's found a lucky number, I think, here with just under 2 minutes to go. And these drivers are going to be pushing. Stroh's gone 2nd fastest, by the way, 24.335. So Timothy Stroh's 44 has jumped up. Morales and Paletta are gearing up their laps. And drivers have to get out on circuit now if they want to set a lap, because they know they can set a lap up until the timer expires in the qualifying session. So with that in mind, you probably have to be out now and gunning it. So 3 drivers in the pits then. Steadman won't improve, nor will Jamie Jenkins from 8th place, and nor will Timothy Stroh. He will go no better than 2nd. Fran Herrera down in the pits as well. Bennyworth crossing the line doesn't get much. And then, of course, you got the question of those who are 1st and 3rd. Lars Petter Andersen and Thijs Barendrecht. There will be questions about how they will conduct this race, knowing that they've got Barendrecht in the championship fight, and Lars Petter Andersen is anything but it at this point in time with a minute on the clock. Everett trying to give everything. 2 takes through the final corner as he struggled a little bit, getting a little bit too early on entry, a little bit of grass there as he went through, and that lap is 3/10 away. He will not improve on that lap time. Matt Emmons, did improve. He went 13th fastest, but he's still got another attempt as and if he should want it out there. So too will Leonardo Paletta, who makes his run through 10 and over towards turn number 11. Out on track as he will have himself about 25 seconds right now and ticking down as he crosses the line. 22 seconds and he goes top. Oh, he goes top. 24.257. He finds it. Oh, what a great lap from that. That was just everything that was needed and a little bit more. But we got ourselves not long remaining here as the last driver then to get to close, as the checker flag will come out, will be Ben Bennyworth first. So important now for 96. Checker is out. They can finish their laps. Bennyworth looks to improve from 10th position. He needs just 1,000th of a second. And as he crosses, he can't find it. He's 2/10 off the pace with that lap. Over the line goes Barendrecht, and he goes fastest at the death. 24.152. What a lap time he has put in on the books. But you've got Paletta, who I think's backed out of his lap. Alfredo Morales is out there on a lap, and Nigel Stock, I do believe, is also trying to circulate and put something in. But number one might have just found some magic at the end of the session. And what magic it would be. Morales climbing the hill then through turn number 9 and trying to get the car pointed and turned. The back trying to step out every step of the way up over the hill. And as he tries to crest and now go through turn 10, he knows he needs a good final corner to be aggressive. 202 kilometers an hour. It's his slowest through the corner and over towards the line. Alfredo Morales, 1:25.316. It's good enough for 8th fastest with that time. And finally, Nigel Stock over the line. His time will not count, and that will make sure everyone is done. So this is how qualifying has been able to stack itself out then here at the Watkins Glen circuit, the classic boot layout. It is Tijs Barendrecht who puts the brilliant basic racing team car on pole position. It does number 1, 1:24.152. Believe it or not, it's his first pole position of the season. Leonardo Paletta will line up in second. A magical lap time from him, just beaten at the death, with the main pace setter for the majority of qualifying being Lars Petter Anderson's number 42. He can only manage third. Timothy Stroh will be lining up in 4th position for car 44, with Alex Everett in 5th and Ollie Peters in 6th. The third row is going to be an entire affair of Crest Autosport at this point in time. You have then got Jeremy Pronk in 7th. Alfredo Morales lines up 8th. It will then be Jamie Jenkins and Jamie Dory for the all-Jamie 5th row of the grid. Ben Bennyworth and Nigel Stock will be on row 6 with Matt Emmons, Fran Herrera, Patrick Linderboom, Dave Steadman down the order in 16th, and Inigo Mardones' 17 car not putting a time together on the books in qualifying, but will be able to go out there and race from the back. So drivers now will have themselves about 5 minutes to assess conditions and get themselves warmed up and ready for racing here at the Watkins Glen Classic Boot Layout, the halfway stage of the championship, and 40 laps of racing. That is going to bring itself into view very, very soon. Anything is possible. Anything that can happen will happen when it comes to sim racing. And if you give yourself 40 laps around Watkins Glen, then I'll tell you this for a little bit of free advice. Watch out, turns 2, 3, and 4 on the opening lap. It's a very wide and expansive 90, the opening corner out on track, but then it funnels through 2, 3, and 4. Can get very congested up the top of the hill. Very easy to get blindsided as you try and drive forward, and you have to be really alert, because if it goes wrong, you got to hope there's a gap, otherwise your race can be over. Drivers won't be completely out of the running if they do find themselves in an accident, as is with racing that goes on the oval side. There is that one fast repair that allows drivers to go in. Effectively, it's a T-car that gives themselves all sorts of opportunities to go out there, to race, to find every little morsel of time that is available, and it might just have to be that drivers could, and this is a big thing, could use their fast repair today. This is the sort of track that does bite back when you're not concentrating, and so you have to be very alert, especially with different grip levels and drivers who are potentially starting on different tyres compared to others. 4 drivers have gone out then on that prime tyre. Mardones, Jenkins, Stedman and Herrera. Everybody else is out there on the red sticker to start the race and be aggressive. It is worth noting as well that with fuel in these machines, it is going to be maybe a little bit of an advantage to those on the prime tyre if they start on it and give themselves enough room to go out there to attack, as Ben Bennyworth's actually just found the wall down there at the bottom of the circuit. We've seen quite a bit of that actually over practice, as Patrick Lindenboom's actually just followed him at exactly the same place. So that could be a real sticking point. Drivers struggling on the brakes to get this car slowed down. This is not a Formula 1 style vehicle. This is an IndyCar, which means that the brakes are a little bit tougher to work with, and they're not as responsive. So you need to give yourself a little bit more room to find your braking point. And if you get it wrong, you are sailing forward, and that is the one issue around such a very quick circuit here, Watkins Glen. A very high average speed, and what you'd say is there are a lot of parabolic style corners around this place, and not necessarily the tight style of corner that you find to slow cars down. So what does that mean? Well, if you get a hairpin like the toe of the boot, it means that the toe of the boot is going to be a very quick entry in. You're still taking it in effectively second or third gear as you go through. Dave Stedman, for example, who's just going through right now as he just spins it on the exit, just proving the point that the other difficulty they'll have is putting the power down. The back end's going to be very tail happy today. One of the issues you're going to find is that drivers are just trying to take as much as they can out of the circuit. It is not as plain and as simple as go around in circles and get the result done. So keep it in the back of the mind. This isn't going to be an easy race, Watkins Glen. And we're just 50 seconds before we jump ourselves over to the starting grid and the procedures that need to bring themselves in place. This should be an all-important battle that we find ourselves watching over the course of 40 laps of action. If you haven't had the chance to already, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe, you can do all those amazing things to keep yourself up to date with Crest Autosport and all of the content that is brought over our very many series that we find here. But there are no guarantees when it comes to this championship, and we have seen it time and again just how incredible some of the racing can be. And a little bit of battling in the warm-up as Nigel Stock and Patrick Lindenboom, as Lindenboom goes around. No contact there between those two, but that will pretty much bring an end to the warm-up. And then we'll be heading over in the next couple of moments over to our gridding and just how everyone is going to be stacking up today here from the Watkins Glen Classic Boot layout. So, on the front, the pole position, it will be the number 1 machine of Thijs Barendrecht, who puts himself into position. Leonardo Paletta will line up the 97 ALP car alongside with Lars Petter Anderson 3rd and Timothy Stroh in 4th position. Alex Everett will start 5th with Ollie Peters, his teammate, in 6th. Then it's Jeremy Pronk and Alfredo Morales on row 4. Row 5 is the Jamies, Jenkins, followed by Dory. Then you've got Ben Bennyworth and Nigel Stock. They are on row 6. Matt Emmons, Fran Herrera, they're on row 7 with Patrick Lindenboom and Dave Stedman 15th and 16th. Inigo Mardones will start from the very back of the field. Nigel Stock also starting on the prime tyre. So 5 on the primes. Everyone else is red stickering to start. And it is a short run forward as they'll be under the jurisdiction of the iRacing Porsche safety car, of course, with the Porsche Esports Super Cup and what is surrounded with that, one of the many series out there in iRacing. There aren't many guarantees in terms of this, but it is worth noting in terms of the start that pace is going to be dictated by Thijs Barendrecht. It is going to be dictated as well that it is going to be a very tough start to get correct. It's a 2-wide start as well that they will be pretty much looking for. And they'll be waiting for that drop of the green flag. They've got an hour and 35 minutes to bring this race over to a conclusion. So just keep in mind just how aggressive drivers are going to need to be today. This is an important race. It's the first time that they find themselves in the road era. Pace car is going to flick right, dive into the pits. Thijs Barendrecht's got control, and the green flag drops, and we are underway from Watkins Glen. And he's got a great start, and Lars Petter Andersen is going to follow into the 90, trying to get that run down on the brakes, and it's a nice run from everyone. Already drama, though, at the back. Two drivers caught up. One is Patrick Lindeboom, the other is Fran Herrera, and both of them, in a world of hurts, they go up the S's section for the first time. Clear at the front. Andersen will immediately look to get aggressive with the push to passes. He's not going to quite get the run that he wants, though, because it's covered by Leonardo Paletta in towards the carousel, and patience personified and needed at this stage. Drivers really trying to be aggressive and using what they have. There is no instant limit, as there's a little look down the inside of Lars Petter Andersen now, and that's Alex Everett starts to get aggressive. He's got 2 places on the opening lap, and he is absolutely flying at the start of this race. Great work as they go in towards the toe of the boot. Ben Bennyworth just behind as well. He's dealing with the next-gen cars of Jamie Dory and Matt Emmons, as they all try and battle up towards the hill. A bit of side-by-side, trying to go through around the outsides. The look, almost contact between them. Bennyworth giving himself enough room, but a lunge up the inside could be forthcoming, and it's going to be a case of not quite there. Bennyworth able to hold just for the time being, and is doing exactly what he needs to do with a race like this. So 1 lap already scored in the books. Thijs Barendrecht is your race leader and leads at the moment by 0.3 of a second. Leonardo Paletta is second. Alex Everett currently in third. A battle on for 5th place, though. Timothy Stroh, for the first time, we've really got to see him on the defense here, because Ollie Peters in the 6th, started in 6th with his 1:24.666. It's almost written in the stars at this moment in time that there's 6 sixes when you try and couple things up at the moment. He's going to try and figure out if he can make a move in towards the carousel on lap 2. He's not quite there. He's not able to do that. Both Lindeboom and Herrera now dive into the pits as the leading 4, the quartet, move their way down the chute. And in terms of sim racing, the corner where Alexei Usiakala had his huge moment out there in terms of sim racing action. Almost a clean start then, but they know they have to make a stop at some point. Those who really want to go out there and be aggressive would probably want to try and make it as 50-50 as possible, get to lap 20, but about lap 15 for the red sticker tyres is probably going to be the best option that they have out there. Split it 15 and 25, give themselves enough room to attack towards the end. Everett is all over the back of Leonardo Paletta in the battle for 2nd and for 3rd positions. They run through, try and get as much as they can out of the track, and it is going to be not enough just yet, but maybe a good run up the hill might be giving a really strong opportunity to make this race a reality. Dipping through the 90, Everett carries a little bit more speed, and he'll get this run up the crest, and he will try and make sure that the Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks car moves to the left-hand side of the circuit, trying to dive around the outside and make this race a reality, to go up to 2nd from 5th on the grid in the space of 3 laps. Has he got it around the outside, though? Paletta trying to get himself in, just enough room given. Everett moves up into 2nd. He's Welsh Dynamite, all right, and just behind Ollie Peters and Jeremy Pronk fight into the chute as they fight for 6th and 7th. You got Jamie Jenkins just behind on the prime tyre. Now, he could sneakily be someone who is a big contender for this race if everyone else's red sticker tyres start falling off in the early stages. So that's always going to be a bit of a cause for concern in terms of how this race is going to be conducted and how it is going to be concocted by the end of this one. It's been very much a case of everyone sticking together over the course of the opening 3 laps of this race. But Thijs Barendrecht in the number 1, your race leader at this point. He'll only want to get to about lap 20 leading this race. That will give him all the bonus point that he needs. I'd say all the bonus point because he gets an extra 1 if he leads the most laps in this race. Alfredo Morales back there in 9th. He's under pressure, though. Here comes Ben Bennyworth to the inside at the 90, and using gravity to his advantage, he sneaks on through and moves up then into the 9th position with that pass. So good work being done then in the early stages. Lars Petter Anderson right now is starting to fall back off of the front three, and he's now bringing Timothy Stroh into a drafting range, and that's going to bring him back into this race. There's a little search for the lead for Alex Everett in towards the carousel. Doesn't quite manage it, but this has been a top three that wants to be aggressive early, and a very even field as the top 7, top 8, all in a line. Almost contact between Morales and Jamie Dory back there for 10th and 11th, heading in towards the chute. So it looks like everywhere you look, it starts to get a little bit aggressive, and Morales is prioritising those exits a little bit better in comparison to Jamie Dory's number 13 machine. And the next-gen car will have a little bit of work to do over the course of this stint to make it work. They know they have to go at least 10 laps on the soft and on the hard tyres, effectively, that they have here. And they know they've just got to go out there, be aggressive, and do what they need to. Peters, huge wiggle going through then. The penultimate corner, fights the car all the way, keeps it pointed in a straight line, but Jeremy Pronk now is going to have a little bit of a chance potentially into the 90s. Going to be patient and maybe try up the hill for it. A little bit of an extend from Ollie Peters. That won't be any harm or any foul, but watch out for the race lead, because here comes Alex Everett again. Thijs Barendrecht knows he's going to have to defend on this straight. Here he comes on the left-hand side. It will be the road longest travelled if he wants to try and make this move. Barendrecht's going to fight him every stage of the way. He'll have the inside line, and as they go through, Everett's trying to come up and under here, give himself room on the outside of the chute. This might be a run all the way for the toe of the boot. He can't get there, but can he pick up the throttle better? On the exit, he can. So again, which way does he want to go? He'll have to go outside again, and this is some great defending by Thijs Barendrecht. He'll struggle off the exit here, though, and this is going to put Everett with a great chance towards the heel. He doesn't get alongside, and he can't afford to use all of his push-to-passes trying to make this happen. He won't have any for later on in the race. Barendrecht defends with a really good, solid defense there. Peters has lost the place then to Jeremy Pronk, and very nearly lost the place there to Jamie Jenkins. Fran Herrera now out of the race. So his day done as he found the barriers through the final corners, and that one all on his own. No need for the safety car to come out and get itself involved in proceedings here at this point in time. Very interesting battling, though. The front has been a hive for activity over the first 5 laps on to lap 6. So an 8th of the race has already been scored in the books. And I am pretty sure, more than anything else, we've seen a lot of patience. And those drivers who've been sitting in 3rd and 4th, not being aggressive, they've been able to potentially play the fuel game a bit better. Jamie Jenkins has got a great run here on Ollie Peters. He'll try and get the pass done for 7th, and he gets it more than done. And for the lead, it's side by side again. Everett stuck out on the outside, though, in the marbles, but he's okay. He manages to bring the car back in and almost had to think about going to the inside. They are really starting to stack up like an accordion over each other, and if they're not careful, they might start tripping up. It's that sort of race you've got to be careful about. And again, Everett's just trying to pick up the throttle earlier off of the exit of the toe of the boot, give himself a run to the heel. Again, it's defended pretty nicely by Thijs Barendrecht. Everett going to the outside, trying to pick off the race lead. But again, Barendrecht's going to just drop off the circuit a little bit there, use that track extend, and he holds on to place for a moment. Little cheeky, but he's got every license and tendency to make something like that happen. So some good racing is definitely bringing itself in. Jeremy Pronk now is finding himself in 6th position. He's got to look behind as well. Jenkins and Peters are there. They have just dropped off, though, of the front 5, being a little bit too aggressive. So you're now starting to see that the gaps are opening up, and this race is starting to form their own packs. You've also got Ben Bennyworth, Jamie Dory, Alfredo Morales. They're all there racing, and a little bit further back, Dave Stedman and Matt Emmons racing their own race at the moment, a little bit down the order on top of that. Side by side again for the lead, though. Here comes Alex Everett, the best run he's had all race. He's half a car in front, making the turn, fighting with the car through the corner. Barendrecht a lot smoother. He'll have to go around the outside, though. He brakes a little later into the corner, but he's going to run out of traction here. And Everett, almost contact. And Paletta's in the wall. Leonardo Paletta finds the wall on the left-hand side, and it's trouble for him as he finds himself or pretty much out of this one. He's found himself just by, I believe, the marshal's post there. So I think they're able to wheel that car away quick enough. So we'll stay green here at Watkins Glen. But that, a big one. Paletta from 3rd position. His race pretty much done with that hit into the wall. None of the damage there of iRacing's damage model coming out onto the circuit either. No reason to throw anything out there. But it does mean now it's Alex Everett versus Barendrecht and Anderson here for 2nd and for 3rd position at this point in time. Ollie Peters finds himself now up a place, not by any matter of fact, but he still has his eyes on Jeremy Pronk and finding a way through, and he can't quite find a way through at this moment in time. So he wants to get back up, he wants to get that place, and he knows he wants to do so pretty quickly and pretty effectively with the way that this track can be. Moves over then to the left-hand side. They fight then up at the very top of the circuit. Try and give themselves that run. And Ollie Peters, with a bit of help from Jamie Jenkins in front, makes the move and jumps up another position, and a very good move, you'd have to say, that as well. As Dave Steadman has actually also made a move as he's got by Matt Emmons. That is 4th position as well. So some very good battling going on then all throughout the field. Now, questions will be asked about car 42 and its pace at the moment. Lars Petter Anderson, very much the rear gunner today to Thijs Barendrecht. And, well, you can see Thijs just lifts off. Lars thinks he's faster. And so Lars Petter Anderson given license in the basic racing team to go and attack Alex Everett. So some very clever strategy in mind. And what would be the thinking for Thijs Barendrecht is that Alex Everett is not a direct threat to his championship at this point in time. The big threat is the car behind, 44, Timothy Stroh. So if he's only ahead of Stroh, that would be a very good reason just to keep in mind how you want this race to go. And the gap 0.7 of a second then at the front of the field. So some good work then has been done, especially in the initial stages of this one. Looks like Jamie Dory has been involved in an incident out there this lap. Had a little half spin going through then at the toe of the boot. So he didn't make contact really with anything. He kept it all out of the walls. So he's still going, but he has dropped down a number of positions because of that. And Paletta in trouble in the wall again. So he was just in front of the leaders there. And if that wasn't damage enough the first time, it's damage enough the second time. His race is done. And it won't be many points, if any, for Leonardo Paletta. His race all over out here at Watkins Glen. And so too may just be his title aspirations. Still though, you've got yourself Jamie Jenkins there in 5th position. And he is giving the chase to Timothy Stroh in 4th. And this is a really scary prospect for this race. Jenkins, who qualified on the hard compound tyre, the Prime, starting to move his way forward and actually move at a pace. Oh, big issue. And that is a really big issue there. And that is going to be a caution here. Jamie Dory and Matt Emmons getting in trouble. And it was with Alfredo Morales as well. So a huge issue for Morales, who had lost the back end, and he effectively had a huge accident there, collecting Steadman in the accident, collecting Matt Emmons in the accident. Dory was caught up as well, so we'll get a safety car out here after just 9 to 10 laps of racing. Everett unhappy at the front with that huge hit that came through, and it was a delayed accident as well. It was an accident in stages, which is one of the reasons why you see that. It was a little late to seeing it, but a big issue there coming out then, and we have ourselves a safety car here at Watkins Glen. A number of drivers trying to drive back. Alfredo Morales, for example, is driving back at this point in time on 3 wheels. Emmons has about 3.5 wheels right now, as that wheel is desperately trying to fall off the car, and ultimately they're going to come in, they're going to get their spare car, and I think they might just be in range to go all the way on the Prime. I think they're a lap short, though, which is going to be a little bit of trouble. So, we're going to bring everything down to a little bit of a pause. This is how the race looks. Alex Everett leads the field outright here. He leads over Lars Petter Anderson in 2nd, and Thijs Barendrecht currently in 3rd position. Timothy Stroh is 4th, with Jamie Jenkins 5th, and Ollie Peters in 6th position. It's Jeremy Pronk 7th. It's Ben Bennyworth in 8th. And then you got Nigel Stock 9th. And Inigo Mardones rounding out the top 10. Alfredo Morales will beat Matt Emmons off of the lane here. They are 11th and 12th, and they get themselves off going. Jamie Dorey down there in the lane, along with Dave Steadman, who took the tow. And Patrick Linderboom will take some service as well. He is 1 lap down at this point in time. So, effectively, the field gets neutralized. And a huge accident then has brought itself forward. And not ideal in the slightest then is the way that has happened for those drivers. Dorey there with damage in the pit. So too Dave Steadman, looking absolutely battered and bruised out there, I think is the right way to say it at this point in time. And it looks like Patrick Linderboom has a bit of a penalty as well. So this is going to bring everyone back together. And so they will spend a couple laps then under caution. Now, I need to keep up these tyre temperatures, and this might actually be the first time that drivers start thinking about whether they want to come in and make a stop or not, and it comes at right a very crucial point in time, because they know better than anybody else at this moment that this could be the right time to switch off of the red sticker tyre and move onto the primes. And you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, pretty much everybody is diving in except Jamie Jenkins. And this has really hurt Jamie Jenkins' race here, because he now has to make a green flag pit stop where everyone else is able to pit under caution. And the two staying out will be Morales and Emmons, who will actually get promoted here to 2nd and 3rd positions despite being caught up in the accident, because they made their pit stop the lap before. The issue is they only did 9 laps on the red sticker tyre, so it means that they will have to come in and make a green flag pit stop. It'll be a battle of pit crews away. Alex Everett wins that one with consummate ease as he will get going again. Barendrecht 3rd. You got Lars Petter Hansen 2nd of that train. Stroh, Peters, Pronk, Bennyworth, Stock. Mardones was also in the pits as well. Steadman's been able to get back out and going again. In fact, Steadman's just put it in the wall. Dave Steadman has just put the car in the wall, trying to chase the safety car down, and his race is over. So Dave Steadman having a horrible time of things. His race is done with one very, very heavy accident down at the toe of the boot, and what a real shame that is at this moment for him. So that's his race done and dusted, and a real shame at that moment in time. So let's resituate where everyone lines up. It is Jamie Jenkins who now leads this field in the number 48. Alfredo Morales is 2nd, and Matt Emmons, well, he finds himself in 3rd position at this point in time. You've got Everett 4th, Anderson in 5th, Barendrecht in 6th, and they've got work to do to move on through the field. Drivers know that they're now going to have a really difficult start to this second stint, because they know that there are drivers in front of them right now, likes of Morales, for example, likes of Emmons, that Everett and Anderson, they're going to have to try and make some moves. Someone like Jamie Jenkins, for example, in the 48, he's just got to get out of Dodge, essentially, is the phrase that is needing to be used, because at this point in time, what's the big issue that you've got? The big issue that you've got is that you still have to make a green flag pit stop. You need as much gap as you can so that when it comes to your stop, you can dive in the pits, you can get that service and go again. One thing that he's also able to do is extend that stint out if he wants it, because he is saving fuel, pacing under caution conditions that we have at this point in time. The iRacing Porsche first safety car out there at this stage is got itself lights off at this moment, so by all intents and purposes we could be going green this next time by out there on circuit. Some incredible battling going on. We've got a couple drivers out of the race, 3 now by Lux, Herrera, Paletta and Steadman all out, but the pace will be with Jamie Jenkins at this point in time. Whether it's green this time or green next time, we will have a little look and a little see on that. But if you're Alex Everett in the number 2, you've got to absolutely go. And look at Jamie Jenkins trying to overtake the safety car, try and get a little bit of heat into the tyres, and he backs up the field then as pace car dives back in. We're back to racing on lap 12. Green flag. We're back underway at Watkins Glen. It's a solid start by Jenkins. He got the gap that he wanted. Morales will follow him all the way, but it's going to be about third. And Matt Emmons, where the issues are going to be. Everett's already got a good run, and it is checking up in the middle as well. Bennyworth, Pronk, Peters, and Stroh all around there. Stroh was really slow and unresponsive to the restart. So here comes the move then from Alex Everett on Matt Emmons. He wants to try and get past the next-gen car, who looks really trimmed out, actually, in a straight line, and is not going to be able to find the pass. So Everett not having everything his own way as Stroh and Peters fight side by side in through the carousel. They'll fight to the chute, and Stroh is going to be down on that inside, trying to make something happen, and Peters working the outside. He's going to get it done on the curbing on the outside, and as they stack up, you got their Pronk, you got their Bennyworth, and Pronk was trying to search down the inside. He's not going to find it either. Some great racing then in the early stages of this restart, and what we love with Crest Autosport. Still, they will battle, though, going through the right, and it might take a couple laps for the new tyres to get themselves up to speed. Off the road goes Patrick Linderboom, lap traffic. He'll have Dorian Stock trying to get through and get by as effectively as possible here in this race. And remember, Linderboom and Dory are lapped down. They're allowed their battle at the moment. Dory goes through, and Nigel Stock will comfortably go through in terms of where they are. But here comes Everett then on the front stretch, looking for third position. Can he get it done under brakes into the 90? The answer is yes, he can get it done under brakes into the 90. Matt Emmons then falls back into fourth position on that fresh, hard compound, that prime tyre. Moving forward, he's a little bit out of position, a little bit ahead, but he still has to make that switch onto the red sticker tyre at the end of this race. Immediately shadowing, though, is Lars Petter Anderson in the tow, and he's not going to be able to get alongside because Everett effectively neutralises any form of run that's there. And they all have to just stay calm in a race like this, knowing that it is such a long way. Already, though, Jamie Jenkins has pulled out a gap of about 1.7 seconds and ever increasing to Alfredo Morales, who will now be fighting for that second position. Effectively, this is for position, but will have to come in and make another stop at some point in time during the course of this race. It's the only issue that Alfredo has in terms of trying to bring this race into it the correct way, the right way, and moving through after having that incident earlier on. He also has to drive carefully because he has no spare car to go and work with. A big accident out there, of course, which caused the caution. 4 cars getting themselves involved. Both next-gen cars were in it. Morales was in it, and Dave Steadman was also in the accident as well. Morales, you could say, is fortunate to be in second position at this point in time, and he finds himself in a real scrap with Alex Everett now as he struggles through the 90, and he might just get a really good chance up the hill here. May Alex Everett to try and move forward, to try and get that pass, to try and get what's needed, and moving through, trying to make it happen. Has he got enough? Lars Petter Anderson's got an incredible run as well behind, and he's trying to get past Matt Emmons here, but he may very soon be boxed off as they reach the braking zone. As through goes Alex Everett, but Lars Petter Anderson is stuck with a capital S at this point in time. He'll have to go around the outside at the chute of Matt Emmons, who's got every reason to fight in the 72 machine on debut. He is at the moment. Anderson only debuted last time out. And oh, down the inside, there's contact. And Morales, and they're all going to be stacked up and involved in a big accident there. And they all just about get around, and they're going to be able to continue going. Emmons is turned around here. No need for a caution. It looks like everyone's still got power and is able to get themselves turned around and going again. So it stays green. But that was a very scary moment for all of the field to try and work a way through. There would have been localized cautions in the area. And ultimately, it's created a huge gap now between Thijs Barendrecht and Alex Everett. He's able to break away, but caught up Lars Petter Anderson in that incident. And that was the last thing he was hoping to have. A bit of side-by-side as the lap down Jamie Dory tries to work around Jeremy Pronk, get himself back into the race a little bit. And he has every reason to fight here, does Jamie Dory. He needs to get to the front of the field so that he can get his lap back. And ultimately, some disasters have gone on out there. Morales has to dive into the pits, and it will be manual repairs for him. And he's already taken his fast repair, so that's pretty much not ideal at all. Ollie Peters moves up then into third. He gets the move done, but he has a huge wiggle going through, and I think he just knows himself it was a little bit of oopsie daisy. It's getting a little tight. Barendrecht sneaks back up the inside though at the chute and senses the weakness there from Ollie Peters and moves back up into third. So an incredible battle now on for the third place. Jamie Jenkins 4 seconds clear at the front of the field, and an incredible race brewing. Timothy Stroh in 5th position as well. Definitely having himself a very quiet and understated race, and sometimes it's all you need in these road races. Just pick up the points and do what is necessary between now and the end of this one. It is tough conditions out there. It is very blustery, and it is affecting the braking zones and the balance of the cars through certain corners. So they are really having to fight today at Watkins Glen, and that much really does have to be said. Still, you've got, though, that lead from Jamie Jenkins. It's 3.8 seconds. He's on older tyres compared to Alex Everett. They will fall off at some point, and he knows that when he makes his stop, he'll lose about half a minute out there. It's about 19 seconds back right now to Inigo Mardones. So he needs a little bit of help if he wants to come back through the field and make something happen. And he knows he was on the wrong side of strategy at this moment, as there is Timothy Stroh trying to figure out a way past Ollie Peters. He doesn't quite find it on lap 16 of 40 here. And as they run down the hill in towards the big left-hander then of the chute, it's going to be another game of patience for the German in the number 44. A very tough race it has been so far, and this could be the race as well that really promotes certain drivers up near the front, that gives each other opportunities, that gives them license to attack and to look at their championships. If you look at the T&D team, for example, Steadman 3 laps down, circulating in 15th position. You've got Timothy Stroh in 5th. Right now, 4th and 2nd could be 1st and 3rd for the Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks team. So they could be in absolutely the right position, as in comes Jamie Jenkins after 16 laps then to make his pit stop and move on to the red sticker tyre, we presume, at this point. So he's going to be out of sequence in comparison to everybody else in this field. Jamie Jenkins pits from the race lead, and it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in comparison to everybody else out there. He is in his box, and it is a very tough pit box actually to get correct, because you're on asphalt as you move over, but your pit box is concrete, so you've got a different braking property to go and work with. He gets himself out and away, and he comes out on the red sticker tyre, and he will be just ahead of Matt Emmons out on circuit. So about half a minute is pretty much transit, so he's got work to do. If he wants to go out there, he wants to put this race in the back pocket as much as he possibly can. Stroh really struggling out there. He's now fallen backwards more into the clutches now of Jeremy Pronk. So a poor lap by his standards. Had a little bit of a wiggle coming up through turn 9 and very nearly lost the back end entirely. He was lucky it was off camber, and he had effectively every little bit of downhill to go and save the car, and that was exactly a lap ago from this point. So Stroh knows his race. He's just got to keep himself on the track, and that's how he's going to plan and win this one outright. Thijs Barendrecht will have to deal with Ollie Peters at some point, who's trying to drive himself back into potentially a 1-2 finish here today. And if this race is anything to go by with how this battle went on, I can't wait for later on in the season, where the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is going to bring itself to the forefront and bring some amazing racing action over the course of what we have. I tell you what, it's going to be something of a treat, mark my words. Still on as well, 6th and 7th positions in this race. Ben Bennyworth and Lars Petter Anderson. Anderson, after the spin that he had going through, maybe has himself a little bit of cause for concern, but he's certainly driving about with a lot of ability in the Basic Racing Team car, because he knows that he's got to stay with Ben Bennyworth, he's got to stay in range and give himself every chance of pulling back some crucial points. They've got the lap down Jamie Dory just in front, and then it's a long chase to Jeremy Pronk, which is about 3 seconds or so, 2 seconds actually over the line. So they've got that. They're certainly keeping an eye out on. Lap traffic will also be a factor here. Not as much as it would do on an oval, but always still a factor, so that has to be kept in mind in terms of the way that these drivers race. It's almost been half an hour at this point that they have been bringing themselves to the forefront, and they know that there is a long way still to go, and we're almost, and I say this very tentatively, almost at the halfway stage here at Watkins Glen. Alex Everett, your race leader, leading by a margin of 4 seconds, being slowly reeled in by 1/10 of a second each time by Thijs Barendrecht at this point in the number 1. Ollie Peters finds himself in 3rd position, having started today in 6th. And Timothy Stroke having a quiet race in 4th position, had a little scare earlier on. Other drivers to keep in mind, the 26 of Nigel Stock finds himself in 8th position. He's up 4 spots. Ben Bennyworth, one of your biggest movers, except for Inigo Mardones, who has been quietly piloting himself around the back and has been 8 seconds clear, or is, 11 seconds back of Nigel Stock, but he's up 8 places in 9th at this point in time. So there's certainly that to keep in mind. Jamie Jenkins, by the way, just set a 26 flat with his first outlap. So he's 0.8 of a second quicker than the race leader Alex Everett at this point. And that red sticker tyre doing its job early. And Nigel Stock having a bit of a wide line going through the toe of the boot. You've always got to be careful there because there's no runoff come the exit of that corner. So you've always got to be alert to it as the group starts to continue to close in with Ben Bennyworth, with Lars Petter Anderson. These two trying to latch on to the back of Jeremy Pronk's Dutch sim racing team car. But Bennyworth knows he's got to look behind because there will be a run this lap from Lars Petter Anderson. And he's got himself really nicely sorted. There's been trouble as well for Matt Emmons. His car is down in the pits. And he's found the wall. And ultimately, his day is done. An instant all on his own out there on track. So that's not ideal. Jamie Dory's moved out of the way of Lars Petter Anderson and Ben Bennyworth. And so the race is going to be all about how you manage from this point onwards. And an important race at this point, it would have to be. You've got to stay in range of the cars in front. Otherwise, it's going to feel very lonely for the second half of this race. About 2-second gaps from 2nd to 3rd to 4th to 5th. And about 1.5 back to 6th position. So Ben Bennyworth's got a little bit of work to do. But everyone just about piloting in and around similar times. And it's going to be a case of work to be done in the second half. And of course they may have to make one more stop if Jamie Jenkins' early stop was any indication of what they need to do in terms of this race. Anderson still chasing and knows in that 42 car that he has the pace today to be really out there, really effective, a go-getter, a trend-setter for the series. Didn't quite work out there off of that restart. Got himself caught up in the instant with Morales, nowhere to go. And he's just got to recover his way back. And it will be a long road to recovery. If he can get himself a good run going up here through the S's section, the right, then the left here of turn 3. Very easy to find that Armco barrier there on the right. And then turn number 4. If you get that run, if you get it sorted out, you can hit over 300 kilometers an hour and give yourself every little bit of attacking moving into the chute and the carousel first, then the chute. And Lars Petter Anderson, by all intents, couldn't quite get it close enough that time. Ben Bennyworth doing enough to cover off, at least in the initial stages. But we still know that it's not very much a foregone conclusion with this race. Alex Everett, yes, he's clear by 4.4 seconds, but I wouldn't say this race is completely sorted. One small lapse of concentration. I remember Ayrton Senna's accident in Monaco once upon a time. That was a huge moment that brought through a race as, again, Bennyworth and Anderson continue on their scrap for what is, at this point in time, 7th and 8th positions. Worth noting as well, Jamie Jenkins has made light work of one Inigo Mardones, and he did so by being 4 seconds a lap quicker on that last time by. So waltzed his way through, so much so that we didn't have time to see it or even predict it at this point in time. But this is a race where if you switch off, you're in the wall. So keep your eyes steady as they will fight with 19 laps of running still to go. Lars Petter Anderson still trying to give chase here, but suffering, buffeting about through the S's under that dirty air. Not as much as you would say a Formula 1 car. These Indy cars do have aero, and they'll be on the high aero package that they have, or on the road package, which does have a lot more downforce on it compared to the incredibly slim and trimmed out version that you would find on the oval package. They'll have to negotiate some traffic here. That's Patrick Linderboom in the 603 Autosport car. No Stephen de Grevelier today, so that is a shame to see, but he'll be back for the ovals. But some good racing putting itself on display at this point in time. Anderson with a really good run, though. This time he'll look for a lunge at the inside. Bennyworth leaves just enough room. He couldn't fit much between them. A piece of paper, perhaps, as they were front to rear. That could have easily have ended up in tipping a driver around. And I'm pretty sure at this point in time, it's going to be a very, very cautious affair, as Lars Petter Anderson has got to find a clean way by Ben Bennyworth to move up into the 6th position in this race. The chase still very much on, and the lead gap fluctuating around 4 to 4.5 seconds out there with every little bit of lap traffic that gets encountered over the course of battling out there. So, it's still a long way to go, and times are of the essence out there, but the pace and cadence of the leaders now has certainly brought itself to the forefront. They've settled nicely into a rhythm here, and it has shown. It really has shown with the way that the likes of Thijs Barendrek's been driving. Ollie Peters as well is having a career day at this point in time. In 3rd place, he's just been quietly getting on with getting on. And it's been a very solid race out there so far. Worth noting as well that Timothy Stroh hasn't necessarily broken away from Jeremy Pronk either. They are 4th and 5th at this point. How many times have we talked about Germany versus the Netherlands over the course of the years? But it's going to be really with the likes of Bennyworth behind and Lars Petter Anderson. A little bit of blinking from Ben Bennyworth. It's going to be a cause for concern. But ultimately, it's going to be a case of these drivers' races. How much can you stay within a range? Can you keep applying that mental pressure on a driver? Pressure is internalized. It's put on you in terms of the way that a race is done, and it's very much all in your head in terms of the way that you drive. So if you're just driving, considering it like a Sunday drive, sometimes it's easy, sometimes not so much. But they are both, and I'm just looking at this, all 4 drivers quicker than one Mr. Ollie Peters that last time by behind. So they're very, very similar. They're all in the 27s to high 26s. And it's a case of about 2/10 split, all of them, in terms of time. So it's worth keeping an eye out on that Ollie Peters might be holding up a 5-car train if he's not too careful in the distant future. So still a long way to go in this race. Jamie Jenkins' progress has stalled out in 9th position. Strategy was sound in principle, but the caution really put a paid end to that. And he'll be hoping around this Watkins Glen circuit here in upstate New York that they're going to have some really good fun later on. This track closer to Buffalo than it is New York City. And they say New York, but really a track which is all about just carrying speed. This is a track where you get the most out of downforce, and your ability to be brave and to not hit the brakes as much is key. Into the pits then comes Lars Petter Anderson. So he'll be the first of the drivers to make that final stop here today. Maybe move on to the red sticker tyre, because he's done his 10 laps on the hard, and that is very, very crucial on the prime, because they pitted in on lap 10, and he will have the ability to choose what tyre he wants to get himself over to the end of this race. So has he got himself in the right position? Has he got enough of a heavy undercut to move up through the train? If he gets it right, he could be up as high as 3rd. And actually, just as we say that, Jeremy Pronk's lost the place to Ben Bennyworth, who got an almighty run moving up through the S's, as Pronk had a huge wiggle up through the S's. I'm surprised he hadn't put it in the fence. That was an incredible save by him, but ultimately this is the right time to start thinking about making stops, making things happen. The only thing Alex Everett at the front of this field, the Welshman, has to deal with is number 1. And when he pits, Thijs Barendrecht, you pretty much have to be sure that Alex Everett is following and is going to be neutralizing any form of an undercut out there in this race. Barendrecht is staying out then at this point in time. Bennyworth and Pronk continuing on their scrap, and one of those two might be deciding to make a call into the lane. And in fact, it is Ben Bennyworth who is going to cover off Lars Petter Anderson then and make the stop. So, wise decision there from the 96. Lars out there trying to give as much as he possibly can. Trying to give everything possible there. And the number 42 actually went on to another set of the prime. And he will have to actually make a pass on circuit here. That's Inigo Mardones there. So he makes the move for position on the Spaniard. And that will potentially cost him the place here. As Ben Bennyworth finally gets out of his box. Petter Anderson on the front stretch. It's going to be a real battle. But I think Bennyworth here might just have the line. They're going to have to fight up through turn 4. But now, here's where the advantage of coming out of the pit is going to be detrimental. Because here comes Anderson looking up to the high side. And he's not got it. So he'll have to sit in line. Bennyworth did so well to get up to speed. And that was well covered by the 96. Still chooses to defend on that inside slightly. Going in towards the carousel. And ultimately, they stay as they are. Ben Bennyworth, great work in the stop. And that sorted itself out absolutely magnificently. And they still continue to fight. And what a fight it is at this point. Side by side, Bennyworth loses out around the outside. When Lars Petter Anderson, he never said no to that. As in comes Pronk, Peters, Barendrecht, and Everett. Lap 27. All of the leaders now diving into the pits, except for car 44. Timothy Stroh is staying out longer than everybody else in this field. Nigel Stock will also stay out on circuit, as Everett will get himself off and away again. He will have 14 laps to just drive the car home. Thijs Barendrecht is going to pressure him every single stage of the way. In comes Jamie Jenkins as well. So his strategy then was to get 10 laps on the stickers and then move back onto that prime tyre, which clearly has been the best tyre. Very dark cloud just went over. No rain, of course, in iRacing. Not yet anyway, but that dark cloud certainly coming into play. Matt Emmons, by the way, is back out on circuit. He's 3 laps down. Took all of the repairs needed. He's just behind Dave Steadman by a number at this point in time. That number is a number of laps, or a number of seconds, but oh, dear me. Pronk in trouble. Oh, Anderson! Anderson contacts, he goes through. Somehow keeps it in a straight line. Jeremy Pronk with an almighty run up the S's, and he just couldn't get it stopped. As he tried to look to the inside, a little bit of contact into the side pod. Somehow, Lars Petter Anderson kept it out of the barriers. Oh my goodness me. Jeremy Pronk up now into 4th position. Effectively net on the road, depending on Stroh, who's actually just come down into the pits now. He'll bring Dory, he'll bring Stock in. So this will put Alex Everett back in the race lead. And effectively everyone has made their cycle through the pit lane. But what an incredible battle we have on our hands back there for what is effectively 4th position. Ben Bennyworth would have seen that in front of him and gone, right, take caution. That's the notes that we'll be using. It's a long stop here for Timothy Stroh. It's an incredibly long stop. And he finally gets off of the jacks and away. And in fact, he is going to come out side by side here with Nigel Stock and lose the place. So Stroh, really poor pit stop. Maybe had to get some front wing repairs. Looked like he was up on the jacks. So that's not good for Timothy Stroh. It's a long road back to recovery. And it's worth keeping an eye out on the gap between Everett and Barendrecht. That gap, remember, was 4 seconds when they came into the pits. When they came out, it's now 2.5. So Barendrecht has been able to slash the gap by 3/8. And he'll want to try and slash that gap down further in the final stages of the race. Mark my words, he's probably going to be someone using those push-to-passes to get as close as he possibly can in this one overall. All of a sudden, you have Ollie Peters on his own in third. Pronk is fourth. Bennyworth is fifth. Anderson now in sixth position. The battle for seventh will now be Timothy Stroh versus Nigel Stock. So they will have their race out there and try and get as much as they possibly can from it. As in comes Patrick Linderboom, 3 laps down. He'll get his pit stop out of the way and stay out of the way of the leaders. Gap down, 3/10 on that last lap from Tijs Barendrecht. It's now 2.2 out there at the moment. They have 10 seconds over the rest of the field. Ollie Peters currently in third position. And you'll have to think as well that the 42 of Lars Petter Andersen, he is going to be a man on a mission at this point in time. And he don't need no permission in terms of the way he'll be trying to get those passes sorted. He'll want to go up. He'll want to try and find that way forward. And he has done it time and time again. As Bennyworth effectively tried to break that toe serpentine-like as you'd see at Indianapolis at the end of the season. So there's certainly that little crux that's in the back of the mind that I might have to just sacrifice my own toe if I want this race to go the way that I hope it will end up. So there are opportunities still there. Still a race to be had, a race to be battled for, a race to be won, and a race to be lost, you could say. With still a long way to go. Entering the final quarter this lap through. Morales down in the pits for his final stop. But Alex Everett with control of things at this point. Anderson getting closer now to Ben Bennyworth, and he's got a really good run actually there through turn 9. Might have a look into 10. He's got such a drive, but it's just 50 metres too short the straight. And so he had to back out. That will cost him a tenth or so. Moves through the final corner. If he wants to get by Ben Bennyworth, he's going to have to do so with a pretty darn good move. And he'll certainly want that to be the move that he can construct and concoct. So, moving up through. Doesn't want this all to go askew. Moving through. Getting the draft up through 3. Moving to the left-hand side at 4. He's loved the outside line. It gives him the inside in through the chute. Carousel hasn't been as decisive as we've seen, and with a bit of a push to pass to go as well. He's flown on through, has Lars Petter Andersen. Absolutely left Ben Bennyworth standing, and that puts them up into 5th position to go duke it out with Jeremy Pronk again. Not a long shot, I would say, at this point in time. Still a long way to go. 2 definitive outs in this race then are Fran Herrera and Leonardo Paletta. From this one, Paletta finding the barriers then at the chute. And the lap 1 incident for Fran Herrera pretty much putting him out of contention and into his own myriad of troubles. But your race leader hasn't had any of those so far. Alex Everett out in front. And he's starting to stretch that gap out now to 2.5 seconds. Found a couple tenths back on that lap, and he's certainly got the hurry-up message. You need to keep that gap up over 2 seconds if you want to feel comfortable. Jeremy Pronk, though, he'll be looking behind because he'll see Lars Petter Andersen there, and he'll definitely want to try and get through. And not only does he want to get through, he'll want to get through quickly. It was a 27.3 from Jeremy Pronk. It was a 26.3 with the draft for Lars Petter Andersen on that last lap. He's not going to be close enough here to make this move, but he is pretty much sat in a very nice position if he wants to get it done. He's got all the time in the world, and he may even still have sights on a podium if he wants to get by Ollie Peters. He still has that potentially in the back pocket. So, as he sets himself up, goes through the right of the toe of the boot. It's not the best line from Jeremy Pronk. It was middle of the road, fighting for traction on the exit. Lars Petter Andersen's going to be over him like a rash in a moment. And I'm pretty sure he'll want to make that move very, very swiftly. Up the hill, fighting in towards the left of turn number 9. Where Lars Petter Andersen has been good. Not good enough this time against Jeremy Pronk's 52 Dutch Sim Racing Team car. But, goodness gracious me, moving through the final corner, try and put power on the exit. There's nothing there for Jeremy Pronk, who understeered through the entirety of it. Thank you very much. I'll take it. And Lars Petter Anderson moves up into 4th position. His eyes set 3 seconds down the road at Ollie Peters. And he knows that this race very much far from over for him. And what he definitely wants, more than probably anything else in the world, is to get into 3rd and prove he's got what it takes. Gap at the front comes back down again. It swings and roundabouts. One lap Taisha's got it. The other lap Alex has got it. It's 2.2. These two fought for the title last season. Hence why they got the 1 and 2 on the car. I came second. I may as well take the number 2 car, is probably the philosophy Alex Everett has. And I know that this is not the easiest race in the world. Timothy Stroh will be happy just to settle for a result here today. He's in 8th position. And I'd say that he's just happy to take these points, get out, not necessarily with the championship lead, but he's going to get out with something, and that's going to be crucial. Over the line. 8 laps to go here at Watkins Glen in upstate New York. The gap down to 2.1 seconds now for Thijs Barendrecht, and you feel if you can get within a second and a half, he's going to put Alex Everett in a position where it's mistakes or no mistakes. And that could be the entirety of the difference here tonight. That gap, by the way, which we were talking about being about 3 seconds to Ollie Peters, all of a sudden it's come down to 1.5, a 27.8 for Ollie Peters on that last lap. Just looked like he made a mistake at turn 9. Ran wide. Didn't have any turn in for the car. And so already you can see that podium. Legs will be shaking in the cockpit. As Lars Petter Anderson, pretty much like a ghost of memories past, will be trying to drive up to the 6 and get himself into position to try and steal the podium away. That 3rd place. And what a 3rd place it could be, all things considered. Little mistake from Thijs Barendrecht there on this lap, going up through turn 9. Sliding the car through. That's going to drop him back a place. Well, not a place, but a couple tenths. He got the gap down to 2.1. I think Everett's got that buffer back again. And Thijs, I think, is pushing a bit too hard now, because the gap, well, somehow remains at 2 seconds. So whatever sliding he did, he must have had that gap down to about 1.9, 1.8. Anderson, by comparison, his teammate, well, he gets his gap down to 1.1 seconds. And just behind that, Jeremy Pronk being absolutely hounded by Ben Bennyworth, who will have a line up these S's. He's just got to extract it. Up he goes. He'll go to the left-hand side, as naturally he will. Doesn't quite have the run, though. And he's really going to have to fight it. If you've been clever over this race, you've saved your pushes to pass, and you use them now to defend. But right at the end of the straight, that's where it counts. And Ben Bennyworth, a top 5 he finds himself with at this point in time. Bit of traffic coming up for Alex Everett. He's got to put Inigo Mardones a lap down. He stays well out of the way, but he still had to sacrifice his line through the heel of the boot. Meanwhile, Lars Petter Anderson continues his onslaught with Ollie Peters. Ollie just holding him at bay. Doing enough right now, but Lars is driving absolutely incredibly at this point. 1, 2, 3, and 4. As things stand, Crest Autosport Basic Racing Team. Crest Autosport Basic Racing Team. Gap across the line. We've got 6 to go. It's still 2.1. If it stays like this, Alex Everett's got this race won. Ollie Peters, though, might not for 3rd. Behind that, you got Timothy Stroh and Nigel Stock. They're in a race right now for 7th and 8th places. Nigel Stock had built up a gap of around 2 seconds, but I think Timothy Stroh has settled in. Figured I'm not going to get to 6th, but I can get to 7th. And that's a point at the end of the day that he would desperately love at this moment in time. Up over the top, Ollie Peters. Still having to look behind here at Lars Petter Anderson. He's not close enough to make the move here into the carousel. But maybe down at the chute. There might just be a little bit of worry, but not quite there. Side by side behind, Timothy Stroh has already got his run, and he has made the pass sorted. Nigel Stock will fall back into 8th position then, with Stroh in 7th. Damage limitation today, it feels like, is the name of the game we are playing here. Peters still having to be very defensively minded here as Lars Petter Anderson's number 42 car. Some say it's the answer to life, universe, and everything if you believe in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But he knows better than anything else. He has got to find that answer of 3rd place. He has got to find a way through. And he has got to make something happen. Because if he can't, then he's going to be in a world of hurt. And what a race that we have had since the caution, where it has been a case of a little bit here, a little bit there. Pick up what you can. Ollie Peters has been defending quite magnificently, but Lars Petter Anderson has really got to chase. Gap at the front, it's down under 2 seconds for the first time. But again, not close enough. Big defence and weave from Ollie Peters in 3rd. Again, trying to see if there's anything available. And again, it's not quite there. So, patience still needed. Race still not over. And a look at the chute. It's not quite there again. Lars Petter Anderson's throwing everything, but he gets a great run out of the chute. It's defended down at the toe, and he'll go the long way around. He's going to run out of camber, surely, to get it working alongside. But if he picks up the run nicely, uses a push to pass, he might get a chance here at the heel. He'll have to go the long way around, and Ollie Peters earlier on the brakes. That's the move done. Lars Petter Anderson take a bow from being backwards off of the restart. He's got himself back to 3rd, and this is a really good drive to get back into this race. Which means our focuses can look forward for the final 4 laps. Because Thijs Barendrecht has the gap at 1.8, and he would only wish that he had more laps under him to chase this down. Because Everett has been covering it off, but I wouldn't say it's over for 3rd. Ollie Peters might have a chance to get a run back here. Never say die attitude on Ollie Peters. Through all of the troubles he's had over the last 2 seasons, how he has been finding barrier after barrier, this is what you wait for. If you go through, I'm going to steal it back again with 4 to go. And he will manage it here. On the outside, he's got to be committed though. Through the right. And committed he is, leaving just 1 lane. And into a very crucial 3rd place. Lunge comes back. Lars Petter Anderson trying to get aggressive. Oh boy. This is getting close, and it's almost a carbon copy as they go through. A good run off of the exit needed. A little check-up from Lars Petter Anderson. He'll again try and make it work at the heel of the boot. This time he'll have to do it on the inside to get it done. Ollie Peters leaves the room, and that was plain sailing. Can he cover it off, though? Very tight defensive line. Both slide through the corner. And 3rd position, at least for the moment. For the moment, knock on wood. It is Lars Petter Anderson's. Oh, trouble in front. Alfredo Morales. His car absolutely spent. And it will be a caution. It will be a caution with not long to go. A heavy accident for Alfredo Morales. Coming in towards the final corner. And not long to go. Lars Petter Anderson. So close. But it is Alfredo Morales' incident. Now let's get a little look and see how heavy a crash it was. It was coming through the penultimate corner. Just losing the back end for Alfredo Morales. Of course, you're not going to get pictures of it, but it's a heavy crash for Alfredo. And it's one where it's parked on the apex exit. No choice but a caution to come out. And ultimately, this might just be a case where this race might end under caution. It's very close to the end of the race. Alex Everett, Thijs Barendrecht. They'll have to chase the pace car. There'll be 2 laps left when they reach. So it might be that we get a green flag restart at the very end of this race. And it might just be that Alex Everett might just have the easiest drive to a victory. And it might have been secured a couple laps earlier. He'll chase down the pace car, which will come out of the pits right now. The iRacing Porsche safety car. And ultimately, Alex Everett then on lap 39 will cross forward. It will take a long time for the field to get together. And it's a very, very good race. I think they know it. I think Alex knows it here. That so long as he stays behind that pace car and drives his race, that he has got there. 2 cautions today at Watkins Glen. Some very heavy incidents out there. And a very big learning curve for a couple of drivers out there. As they will get on through. 9 drivers ultimately come the end of this race are going to finish on the leading lap, which will see Jamie Jenkins at the very back of those. But some good racing here. You got the likes of Timothy Stroh, damage limitation, not necessarily a road specialist, but getting some crucial points. A solid finish is all that you can ask for in races like these. Jeremy Pronk will be happy with his result. Up 1 spot. Ben Bennyworth, another great drive through the field, 11th up to 5th. He has certainly driven in a manner that has been very befitting of his calibre of status, and he keeps himself in the picture with Alex Everett and co. in and around. So at least for this point, what we can say is some great racing has been putting itself forward out here at Watkins Glen. It's a week's break from this point onwards, and we'll be back, of course, on Wednesdays with Iowa, 150 laps. It's the longest laps out there, so it is going to be a really, really good battle. So we've got so much amazing action still to come along over the latter half of the season, but what more can you say? What more can you say? It has been a case of certain drivers have needed strong results today to move themselves up. We will pretty much, I'm sure, see a real closing, and if not a change at the top of the championship with Thijs Barendrecht and his 2nd place finish. That could be so very vital to how this championship will all stack up in terms of the points. So you've got to be alert. You've got to make sure that you are getting yourself in play and giving yourself as many chances as possible. And today's felt like that sort of day. Give yourself chances. Give yourself some opportunities. And it's those opportunities that we have very much seen. Lights still on the pace car, which means that it will be a final lap at under caution for the Crest Autosports with Apex Tracks car of Alex Everett. And some good racing. It's a shame that the racing today ends under caution. It's not the way that these drivers would have wanted it to finish. They would have liked to have seen a battle out to the end. But ultimately, this is the sort of race where issues do find themselves along at a track where it is very difficult actually to get cars extricated around this place. Sometimes it does have to be this way, that you do get a caution and they do prop up and you do get incidents that happen. So ultimately, so long as there is not a mad scramble and the pace car dives in at the end of this, I believe the pace car is going to stay out because the lights have remained on. Essentially, that will be that. Jamie Jenkins actually has done something very interesting. He's in the back of the field in 9th position. And knowing that he's in 9th, and because he started the final lap, he's not actually going to lose that lap. He's actually got out of the car early, knowing he won't be classified further down the order. So a little bit cheeky there from Jamie Jenkins. It won't be classified as a finish, but it will be 9th place overall. And he will not lose that place to the likes of Inigo Mardones or Jamie Dory out there on circuit. Nice showing as well today by the next-gen drivers there in 11th and 12th. They did tangle up together as the last part of the accident that went on, which brought the initial caution out. But I think what really has to be said is that this was a tough race today. It was always going to be a tough race around Watkins Glen. And I tell you what, Alex Everett will have control of the Road Course Cup when the final round of that will come into play at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca a month from today. 4 weeks on from this point in time. Is it 4 weeks on or is it 5 weeks on? Let's get information correct here, ladies and gentlemen. It will be 4 weeks from today that we will find that, or 4 weeks minus a day, depending on as and when this goes up. So some brilliant opportunities. Iowa, Kentucky, Laguna Seca, Gateway, Chicagoland. And then the finale at Indianapolis. Right in some brilliant racing times. Of course, this will be right around April, heading towards that fabled month of May. And, of course, some preparations coming in for iRacing Indianapolis 500s and many Indianapolis 500s that will be taking place over, of course, the middle of May. So, moving up then through the track, through the heel of the boot. An important display today of just grit and resiliency. When you can drive with freedom, when you can drive knowing that you're not thinking about championships, when you're not thinking about the sluggish start to the season, it's amazing how much liberty that can give you. That ability to G yourself up, to give yourself chances to go out there and to make something happen. This was an important race to win today. The first time that Crest Autosport had gone to a road race over its 3 seasons. And it will crown its first winner. And he was, by every single measure and metric of the word, dynamite. Alex Everett then will take that drive over towards the line. And as he reaches it, being flanked by Thijs Barendrecht for one of the closest finishes in what is racing history here, 1/10 of a second. It is a victory for Alex Everett here at Watkins Glen. And what an important race it was as well. Thijs Barendrecht will take second as we'll get results on screen. Lars Petter Andersen will finish off in third, exactly where he qualified the car. And Ollie Peters will finish off in 4th position. A great drive, and a drive that he will certainly be happy with. Ben Bennyworth will finish 5th with Jeremy Pronk in 6th. It will be 7th for Timothy Stroh. Not bad for points. He'll take them as they come along. And Nigel Stock will be in 8th place. 1 lap down classified will be Jamie Jenkins. He got out of Dodge early, with Inigo Mardones finishing in 10th. He was the biggest mover today. He was up 7 spots with Jamie Doria and Matt Emmons, both on debut for Next Gen. They found themselves 11th and 12th. Emmons 3 laps down, along with Dave Steadman, who had a torrid time of things, to be said again. Alfredo Morales 5 laps down, bringing out both cautions here today with his incident. Patrick Linderboom 8 laps down, was able to reach a finish. And then you've got Leonardo Paletta and Fran Herrera, who both couldn't quite find themselves to the checkered flag here today. We're going to take a week off. We're going to find ourselves moving forward then to our next races 2 weeks from this point. Of course, this being filmed on the 1st of March here in 2022. So keep your eyes peeled for more action. A massive thanks has to go to everyone who has helped get things done, from Track Racer, 603 Autosport, Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, the GP Box, Uncle Luke Sign and Sticker Shop, and on top of that, Apex Tracks, the motorsport and motor racing circuit wall art racetrack sculpture designers who manufacture using Formula One and motorsport-inspired rapid prototyping technologies. From William Foyle, who's been on the cameras, I've been Jake Sparey. Alex Everett can get his season back on track. That was a massive, massive win. He takes control as well of the Road Cup, and he knows that Laguna Seca will await him. A nice deserved break for everybody, though. They can take their week off and know that when they come back, we've got some great racing on the horizon, and it's going to be the most laps of any over the course of the season next. We'll see you in Iowa 2 weeks from this point.